Welcome back to Preparing for the Unexpected. Today we are talking with Regina Phelps. Regina, welcome back. Thank you for the first segment, first of all. It's very different and feels kind of interesting to be on the other side of the microphone now and then. So thank you very much for all your questions there. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're so welcome. And I thought, how fun to turn the tables on you instead of you always asking me everything. So
Yeah.
it was so great to learn all of those things. So thank you very much as well, and for letting me interview you.
Oh, my pleasure. So let's change gears. And like we said in the break, let's now move to more depressing topics.
Yes, we're still not in the what do you always say,
Bunnies and rainbows.
bunnies and rainbows. Yeah, right. No bunnies and rainbows yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what I've been thinking about, of course, is the current state of affairs here in the United States, but also the impact it's having globally. And I think what I'm feeling, and certainly what I'm seeing in the press I'm reading, I read a lot of press, international press, so that also gives me maybe a different view on the world from the Financial Times and things like The Economist and others across the world. Um, but really looking at the incredible political uncertainty about the United States, both internally in the US and outside, but also things like the economic impacts. And of course, the tariffs that President Trump has put on and taken off and put back on and taken off and increased and lowered and how unsettling that is and how challenging it is for the business environment and really looking at all of this from a perspective of instability here in the United States. You see that with departments closing, uh, people being laid off, and then realizing, oh my God, we really needed that, so we're bringing it back. And so just a lot of craziness, if you will. And
Mhm.
that's reflective of a lot of uncertainty in business, which of course all my clients are kind of hemming and hawing and, wringing their hands. And there's so much uncertainty. And I think that overarching sense of uncertainty is a big issue here in the United States. And I thought maybe, first of all, it'd be good to hear from you as a Canadian perspective, and all the things that might be going up there as Trump keeps proclaiming he'd like to make you the 51st state. And just maybe what you could share from your perspective in Canada that maybe people may not be aware of.
Well, to answer the 51st, not while I live and breathe.
And all my Canadian friends, by the way, say the same thing.
Elbows up, fists
Yeah.
out, for sure. Never 51. Up here, the uncertainty, yeah, it's all across the country. There's one thing that the current US administration has done that no Canadian government has ever been able to do, and that's unite us in a way that's never been done before. That includes
Wow.
Quebec and the eastern provinces, the prairies and the west. Yeah, we still have our differences all over the place, but we're more united as a country than we've ever been, and which is great. More
That's a
Canadian
great side
flags.
benefit, right? I mean, my
Yeah,
God.
yeah. You do find people now going to stores and purchasing a lot more Canadian made or Mexican or Costa Rican or someplace else. As an example, 2 weeks ago, I was in a grocery store up north in the cottage country, and they had all these blueberries, which were fantastic. The sign said blueberries, product of USA. Hardly any of them were gone. Beside it was product of Mexico. There were two what they call pints, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, pints at the cones. 2 pints of blueberries there. Nobody was buying the American ones until everything else was gone.
Hmm.
So I saw right with my own eyes, not just people saying it, but I could actually see it. People were not buying it. You walk down the shelves, you see little maple leaves sticking out for identifying products that are made here, or from here. And so people are picking those now, choosing that over anything else. And I've actually seen people reading labels. Now, where is
Trying to
it
find
made?
out where it's from, right?
Yeah, where is it made? My nieces, who are 14 and 16, are doing that. When they
Wow.
go shopping, they are looking at the labels and they will not buy anything that's American. And these are teenagers
Wow. Wow.
and
Wow.
they're looking at the labels. So, our government, and whether it be provincial or federal, are looking across the oceans for new partnerships.
Mhm.
Um, I read a headline last week. I'm always skeptical. Oh my goodness, what a word.
That's a good word.
Skeptical.
I like it. I like it.
Skeptical. Yeah, I've made up a new word. Skeptical about this one newspaper sometimes because they always have one viewpoint only. But they've said that the um, oil fields in Alberta are now shipping more oil to China than the US now.
Wow.
I don't know if it's true, like I said, because I'm always, a skeptic of
Right.
the paper, but that is something that they're now doing. They're now selling more to China than the
Hmm.
US.
Hmm.
So they're looking for different markets. They are looking for different agreements with different partnerships. I know Australia and Canada are having a lot of conversations right now. The UK and Canada are. The EU has even offered a hand for
Wow.
Canada to join the EU on some level.
Wow.
So who knows what could happen? So this is our country, even though our closest neighbor and like it or not, our best friend, the United States,
A
is now
longtime
somebody,
best friend, right?
yeah, is now someone we're turning away from because we overall we're not sure if we can trust
Yeah.
what's going on.
Yeah. And that's painful for us down here. I don't know about you, but it's painful for us.
Yeah.
We're sad and sorry. Yeah, and I think that overarching uncertainty, that kind of turning your back on an old friend kind of thing is really unnerving to a good part of the United States. And what that instability has caused is a lot of anxiety in business. And as you
Mm,
and I both know, when business becomes anxious, when orders might tick down, when all of a sudden your supply chains are messed up yet again, but now for a very different reason than before, now everything becomes very questionable. And I think what I'm seeing in my client population already is a certain amount of anxiety about what this all means for business, for the annual revenue, how much, what kind of headcount we have. So I've already started to see clients of mine doing small layoffs. I've seen more retrenchment in the area of uh, in my areas that I consult in, both in the risk departments and overall continuity and crisis management programs. And so I think what this means is that for our many listeners, what they need to think about is what can they do to continually remind management of how incredibly important the work is that we do.
hmm
And you and I have talked about this through other economic downturns, but I think it's important just to go back and revisit this idea about the idea that it's a fool's game to sell our services on return on investment when in reality, we should be focused on value on investment.
hmm
And I think when people are looking on how to reduce headcount, how to save money in an organization, if all you're going to be selling is return on investment, and the next question they're going to ask you is, when was the last time we activated any of your plans or any of your teams, or when was our last big crisis? What do you think the overwhelming answer is amongst most companies?
Oh, most companies will say, "Oh, we do it all the time," but we know that's not true.
No, they don't. Not most of my clients on an annual basis after 42 years of doing this, on an average year, they don't activate anything.
Mhm.
So if you're a big CEO or a big a risk officer in some company, you're trying to figure out how you can reduce headcount, and your continuity programs or your resilience programs haven't activated ever, or if it has, it's been minor. What do you think your chances of that department staying whole over time?
You'll be gone.
Yeah, right, right,
Yeah.
right. And we are at that moment again. It hasn't gotten that grim yet in the US, but it's starting to. And I think as this economic conundrum that we find ourselves in continues, it will only get worse. And so we're not in a recession yet, and hopefully we'll avoid it. But there's a lot of speculation we're going to get there, and we'll probably take the rest of the world with us. Unfortunately, that happens. And so therefore, I think all of our colleagues need to be thinking about something you and I have talked about on numerous occasions, which is how do you sell the value of what you do every single day in your department, in your group?
Mhm.
And that's, I think, something that's really important for us to think about. Have you had other clients or other guests or folks talk about value versus return on investment?
No, you are the only one who've used that term. Everyone else has used, showing the value of what you do, but
Right.
not the term value on investment.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty logical one because we don't activate very often. It's really hard to prove actual dollars that you saved. You can speculate how much money you would save if there was an interruption, but most companies can't point to a significant loss and say, this program helped us save all this money.
Hmm.
And so then when it becomes tight, it's hard to convince somebody that when the bad thing happens, you'll be so happy that you have all this stuff.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just spend a moment, because I know we only have a few minutes left, to just remind people about this concept of value on investment. And what I would encourage all of them to do is, first of all, think about the fact that return on investment is not the best metric. It doesn't help us because usually we don't actually have an event that really can show the true ROI. And so what we have to do is that we have to provide value. And this is what I think people should always have in the back of their mind. And let me just give you a couple of examples about how we provide value every day. First of all, is in the area of regulatory or any sort of contractual compliance. Many of my clients have to give reports. The continuity professional has to give a report to a large customer or a large client about their overall continuity plan. When was their last exercise? What were the key learnings? What have they done? And so on and so on. So, from a regulatory perspective, and of course, here in the States, that primarily is in finance, but also in other just large clients who might want to survey your resiliency program, you can actually demonstrate through plans, processes, exercises, exercise reports, etc., that you have a viable program that would actually ensure your resilience so that you could actually still perform those actions that they're buying from you and expecting from you in a timely manner. So that's a really important first one I think that people need to look at. And increasingly, I find that many of my clients have large customers that want to do either minor audits of a plan
Mm.
or process. Do you ever see that at all,
Yeah.
Alex?
Oh, yeah. And boy, does everyone panic then.
Exactly, right?
Oh, oh.
Exactly. You're like, oh my gosh, right? So I think that's an important one to push because that is not just a regulatory issue, it's certainly a contractual issue. Or if you're doing a scope of work for somebody, they want to see what your resiliency program is. Another one is the competitive advantage issue because you have a strong resilience program that's well exercised, a good crisis management program, that what you can do is that you can demonstrate that you have this competitive advantage, that perhaps another vendor or supplier who might be bidding on a job may not be as skilled in resilience as you are in the organization. And so for that is a really a big plus that I think you can
Mm.
always sell. The other one is increased robustness. If you've got a really well-defined program and people have really thought through their plans, what I often find in exercise is that people will look at their plans and then frankly, they'll often look at the processes they have and think like, well, that takes 15 steps to do that particular process. We discovered that we really don't need to do 15 steps. We can do it in 8 steps. So what
Mm.
people do is that they change things, um, but they never really codify it. And so the idea is, as things get changed and upgraded and bettered, can you then increase your robustness simply by the fact that you've been working on these plans and you're changing things? And so I think it makes people have more success with less effort, if you will. So
Yeah.
that's another one. I also think there's a lot of deeper knowledge. So when you actually dig into a plan and you're trying to figure out how to recover something or how you would respond to an overall crisis, you have to do some deep thinking, as you well know, and well-designed exercises can reflect that. And when you have this deeper knowledge, then that actually begins to make you also more resilient as a whole. You're not pulling out a book, and as you were talking about with just a moment ago, about with people doing training and exercises. we all know that in a real event, most people don't pick up their plan,
Hmm.
maybe ever. And sometimes they're just falling back on what they know. And so if that is the case and that's human nature, I think the more robust your plan can be, the more robust you've worked through things, you've improved things, it's really important. And I think that really helps. I think it also helps when we have a large number of people who are retiring. I don't know about you, but here in the United States, there are a lot of people who are leaving their jobs because they have been there for a long time. And I have a lot of
Hmm.
Canadian clients that have, oh my gosh, they have tons of people leaving. Well,
Yeah,
all
it's
of a
the baby
sudden,
boomers. They're all leaving.
right, right. All the boomers are retiring. And
Yeah.
so just think about that from that perspective. You can actually have a really good resiliency plan and process, and you can utilize that plan and process when you're onboarding new people. They can then do refinements to that particular process as well. But the idea is if it's a living, breathing document, it's really important that we actually keep it current and available and ready at all times.
Yeah.
And I think lastly, what I would say is that our job every day is to provide value to organizations. And you had better know what that one or two sentences are that describe the value that you give to that organization every day. So when the CEO meets you in the elevator and says, "Hey, Alex, oh yeah, you're the continuity guy. What value are you providing us every day?" You better have a one or two sentence line that you're going to deliver that is 100% spot on, that can get, basically could be communicated between like three or four floors because that's all you're going to get. And if you say, you'll be happy when the bad thing happens that you have me, I think your job is short lived.
Yeah.
So it's a reminder for all of us to think about value, your elevator speech, what you bring to the party every single day.
Yeah. And I would add a couple of others. Building the relationships with other teams as well, like the project management office,
Absolutely.
getting involved with them so that plans and processes, including IT, disaster recovery, and the service desk, everybody gets updated when something new comes in and what that change is. So change management as well, linking with them and the enterprise risk management, so that whatever we're doing tactically aligns with what the expectations are strategically from the
Hmm.
executive team.
Hmm.
Otherwise, and I think I've mentioned this on the show once or twice, um, my own example when I gave results of a BIA to the sponsor and the draft report, he looked at it and said, "This is embarrassing." And I went, "Uh-oh, what did I do wrong?" And he goes, "All the business units," he goes, "that you talk to, they have a different expectation of what's important than the C-suite does." And he was the
Wow.
CFO. So it's like, aha. So that
Good
has to
finding.
align, So we reshuffled things and reviewed things, but still, part of us, we have to make sure we align to
Hmm.
those expectations that leadership have.
Hmm. And another good part of that too is I know we're going to be over time here, but the issue related to audit. Audit's another good partner for you because if they're working closely with business resiliency, crisis management, they have the ability to also kind of help support you and promote you within the organization if you have a good relationship with your internal auditors.
Yes. Yeah. Make audit your friend.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They're not the enemy, they're your friend.
That's right. On that note, we've come to the end of the show, Regina. Thank you
Number
once again.
1000. Whew.
Yeah, episode 1000 come to a close. So by the time you and I meet again, it'll probably be episode 110 or something. So we'll see.
Great. That's great.
But
Always
thank you
enjoy
so
being on the
much.
show.
Thank you once again, Regina. Always great to chat with you.
Thank you.
And everyone watching and listening, stay prepared, everybody.